It's a lot to see your kid suffering. It's a lot to see your kid getting ostracized. It's a lot. Whew, we are not going to get emotional. To see people misunderstand him and see him as like he's at this point he's 4. He's not a monster. He just needs help. But like you're in an environment where people don't care about that. Like another call from school, another meeting, another we just can't keep him here. 2025 was a very difficult year for me as a parent. Last year, we went through a lot. My son attended 4 different daycares in the span of just 6 months in 2025. One of them we left, 2 of them we got kicked out of, and then we finally found our Goldilocks perfect school. I learned a lot along the way, most importantly of which, sometimes it's not just bad behavior. So today I'm sharing what actually happened, how we got there, and how everything finally started to make sense. But before we get into everything, let me introduce myself. I am Adrienne. I'm a mom who is here sharing all the beautiful, messy, chaotic, and unpredictable parts of mom life. I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom figuring it out in real time. And I am sharing this because I know that there is a lot of other moms out here who go through the same thing and have still not gotten on the right path. So let's rewind it back to fall of 2023 when all of this started. So in fall 2023, he was about 2.5 years old. At this point, we had done all of those classic pediatrician evals that they do at about 18 to 24 months, and we've passed with flying colors. Though there were some things that he did that I kind of went, but I really just kind of let it go. My boy was very big on lining things up. He lines up toys. He would even line up the dining room chairs. He would pull them all into the kitchen and line them up together. He always liked things kind of just so. And I never really thought too much about it. I'm to be really honest. I really wanted to just do one of these. I was just like, well, the pediatrician says that everything is fine, so we're just gonna go with that. And he honestly really didn't have any issues at home or at school, so we kind of just let it rock. Other things that I saw that I noticed he did rock back and forth a lot. Sometimes he'd be sitting on the couch and he'd kind of hit one of these. There sometimes would be like little floppy hands or little things that he would do with his fingers. Everything really changed when he changed classrooms at his daycare. Once they hit about 2.5, they put them in a classroom called Young Preschool. It was kind of the place that they went in between the 2-year-old room and 3-year-old room. But this classroom was different because it had a lot more structure to it. There was a schedule that they actually maintained. The kids actually had more seated classroom time, to do activities and stuff. They actually upheld circle time and nap time. And this was honestly the time in which my son was trying to drop his nap at home. And I honestly have given up. I was like, you don't want to sleep? You don't got to sleep. So at about 2.5, he wasn't sleeping at home. The problem is, nap time is very important at school, right? That's the time where the teachers get things done. That's when they get their breaks, and all the kids nap at the same time. He went into this classroom, and the first problem that we were having was that he didn't want to nap. And not only did he not want to nap, he did not want to lay down. He did not want to sit still. He did not want a quiet toy. I would get like a lot of complaints from the teachers about him disrupting nap time, waking up other kids. And I'm not going to lie to you, at that point in our lives and where we were at, I kind of looked at her like, this doesn't sound like a problem to me. This sounds like something that you need to deal with. And frankly, I didn't really do anything about it. I let them know that he didn't nap at home anymore, so I didn't expect him to nap there. I was cooperative. I was talking to them. I was conversing. His teacher that he had that year, we talked all the time. I was definitely the parent that was like, well, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. What are you guys doing here? I'm going to try. I started doing like quiet time at home. That helped me because Lord knows I hated when we dropped naps. Okay, naps were my special time too, so I absolutely get needing the kid to nap. I understand. So, on the weekends, I would start, trying to do quiet time. And at that point, he was still in a crib, so it was really easy to do. So I put him in this crib. He can't get out of the crib. put him in there with some toys and some books and stuff, and he would stay there. Was he quiet? No. But I didn't really feel the need to force the quietness. And that was the problem that they had, that he wasn't quiet. But this was an ongoing issue that we had throughout the entire year, was nap time and also circle time. 2 times where it was required for him to sit down and be quiet. Unfortunately, my son got a reputation, which was hard, because I knew he was a good kid, but at that point, there were a lot more than the people that cared about him. There were a lot more people that saw him as a problem. And he definitely was singled out for that. He definitely was labeled for sure. And that was hard for me, And at that point, I didn't necessarily see that there was necessarily like an issue happening. I'm not gonna lie. I saw it as a classroom management problem, because when he was at home with me, everything was fine. When we were out together as family, everything was fine. You're requesting something of him that he's struggling with, and I don't know how to help you with that. I don't know how to help you with that. So so we move on to the next classroom, the preschool classroom. And that's where I feel like it really hit the fan. I think the administrators and the teachers at the school at that point were, like I said, he'd gotten labeled. He had a reputation. So anything that he did now, it was just like, like this big reaction. And he's getting older. He's having his big feelings. He's needing more support. And I think the symptoms were getting more apparent, So not only were we being disruptive during nap time and circle time, we start throwing things, hitting people, jumping off of tables, eloping. Okay, running out of the classroom was a big issue, very big issue. We start having massive meltdowns, massive angry outbursts. That's how they, presented themselves. And I'm starting to get phone calls now. Come pick them up. I'm starting to have, regular parent-teacher conferences. The director wants to talk to me. We're thinking that maybe he should be half time now. So you're telling me that my son can only come to school from 8 to 12. And then what? And so it got really contentious. Again, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I handled it the best, or maybe I did. I don't know, but I definitely spent quite a lot of time upset with this school and them upset with me, because there were other things going on too with the school. There were a lot of other things. They had gone corporate. Okay, so definitely the atmosphere and the way that they did things changed. It wasn't like this family environment when we first got there. When we first started that school, it was perfection. I love that school so much. The teachers that they had there, the administration that they had there, they went corporate. A lot of those people left. And we were left, personally, in my opinion, we were left with, the people that were left. We'll say that, So the way that they did things, the teachers, the caliber of teacher that was left, those people did not have time for my son and his issues. And really what he needed was to be supported. At this point, things are happening. I'm trying to do my research now. And I'm starting to read. I'm starting to talk to people. I'm starting to join groups, doing those things. And starting to realize that, okay, maybe something is going on. And it became kind of more of this like, is it a behavioral issue or is it like something else, and of course the school is a behavioral issue. Your son is bad. Your son is a monster. That word was never used, but it was implied. And we can have a whole nother conversation about young Black boys and how they're perceived in society. That's a different conversation. But my son is a monster. That was what was implied, and I know that's not true. So I started to do my research. And at his next appointment, his 4-year-old checkup at his pediatrician, I finally said, listen, I know y'all saying that there's nothing going on with him, but I would like to do an eval now. And me taking it upon myself to take that proactiveness is, I think, what turned this whole thing around. Because if I had just kind of been like, well, they told me nothing's wrong, then we kind of would have continued on that way, right? And that's nothing on his pediatrician. They don't know him. They know the person that they see in the exam room, which is a completely different kid than the kid that's at school, the kid that's at home, right? I'm the one that knows him the best. I'm the one that needs to advocate for him. I'm the one that needs to speak up and say, hey, listen, I know that we said that there's nothing going on here, but I'm kind of thinking there might be something going on. And the pediatrician was just like, yeah, you know what? Absolutely. Let's do it. Here's a list of places and let's get it going. And I thought at that point, I was very excited. I was like, oh, we got to get answers. I had no idea how long of a process, how complicated of a process, how harrowing of a process it would be to get an answer. We had that conversation in January of 2025. I did not get my answer until September of 2025. And that is actually pretty decent. A lot of people wait years. A lot of people wait years. We started the process. I got my list of names. I started making phone calls. And the things that these people told me, the wait lists, okay? Oh, we are not going to have an appointment until next year, ma'am. 10 months out, 9 months out. What do you mean in a year you can do something about? That's the norm. Sometimes it's worse. So what I ended up doing was I took all of the contacts that I had and I called them all. And I made multiple appointments. Oh, you say you can't see us for 10 months? Appointment made there. You can't see us for a year? Appointment made there. Put on this wait list. And I just played a lottery system. I created my own lottery system. Whoever calls first gets the appointment. It took a couple months to start getting some phone calls. Okay, we're starting to book out. Let's get you on the list. At this point, we had gone through the spring of 2025 and things were going from bad to worse at his school. It was getting bad. Like, I was getting daily phone calls. We had several conferences. They were like, basically, we're not trying to kick you out, but like, we don't know what to do. We can't have him here. His quality of life was suffering. My son was having terrible days. It's a lot to see your kid suffering. It's a lot to see your kid getting ostracized. It's a lot. Whew, we are not going to get emotional. It's a lot to see people label him, to see people misunderstand him and see him as like, he's, at this point, he's 4. You know, he's not a monster. He just needs help. But like, you're in an environment where people don't care about that. I get it. You know, I get it. I get the plight, right? I could never be a daycare worker. I could never be a teacher. Shout out to you guys. Like, the teacher that he ended up with at the end, she was fantastic. She was angelic. She did not have enough resources. She was in a classroom with 18 4-year-olds. What adult 18 4-year-olds? She was never going to have time for him. She was never going to be able to give him what he needed. And as much as she did, because shout out to her, I'm not going to say her name or anything like that, but like, she really was fantastic. And she was like his last teacher before we left that school. And she was the only one who was just like, I see that he needs support. I see that he needs something. He's struggling. This is not a he's a bad kid thing. He needs help. I want to help, you know, but the problem was, how are you going to give him individual help when you have 18 children, 20 children running around screaming and yelling? It's just not going to work. You know, it's just not going to work. I felt like I was failing as a mom. Like, I was sending him to this place where he was not understood. He was not appreciated. He was definitely, you know, feeling it emotionally. And it all just kind of cycled out because he was feeling this coming from these adults about him. And then it just made it worse, you know? So he feels more unstable. He feels less supported. He's not feeling like he's in a comfort zone. He's not feeling like he has somebody, you know, to support him and to have his back. So of course it's just going to make the behaviors worse. So we were like in hell. I'm like, I would definitely say, I mean, the whole year, but for sure, like April to like September for me was like hell. It was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get these evals done, and the people are telling me we don't have, we're booked out to 2026, ma'am. Eventually, we did get an appointment. He had his first eval, with a neuropsychologist in April of 2025. The results of that evaluation were basically inconclusive. She kind of felt like it could have been autism, it could have been ADHD, it could have been ODD. She couldn't tell, basically, is what she was saying. I can't tell. I think he's too young to be able to tell. During that time, we left our first school because just couldn't take it anymore. And I had a different plan for him for fall of 25. That was supposed to be his like pre-K year, his VPK year. And we were supposed to start at a private school. And it became very clear to me that that wasn't going to work. The way that things were going with him at school, he was going to get kicked out of there too. So May of 2025, June of 2025, I realized I have to make a different plan. And I had no plan. So during the summer, he went to 2 different schools. One was like literally just an in between. We need somewhere for him to be for a couple of weeks. They ended up also kind of not like, no one ever honestly like asked us to leave, but like basically kicked us out, And then we found this place that was like supposed to be the neurodivergent haven. They were like a outdoor school, and we have gardens and goats and like super funky and weird and hippie like, and the children run around with no shoes on, and I was kind of excited because I was just like, well, he's not doing well with like a typical classroom structure. So they seem like a place that said, we don't mind if during circle time he needs to walk and pace the room. We don't mind if he needs to go outside more, or if he can't nap during nap time or whatever. They said that we have the skill set, we have the knowledge base, we have the experience. That led to them telling us that he needs a behavioral aid. We can't handle him, is what they said. He needs support. We need to hire a behavioral aid. You can't handle behavioral aid without a diagnosis. We didn't have a diagnosis. We were still waiting on our second eval. We had no diagnosis. And insurance was like, we're not, So we had to be thinking about how we were going to pay for this out of pocket to have a behavioral aid. Found a behavioral aid. The behavioral aid quit after 3 days. She sure did. I can't even really tell you what happened, but she quit. And she was apparently like the best option that they had found. They had interviewed a few people, looked high and low, and that was the best one they had found that they were excited about. And if she can't do it, then he has to go. So then we didn't have a school at all. August to like mid-September, we had no school. He stayed at home. And we kind of managed that as a family, of just someone staying home with him every day. That was rough because my son is super social. He likes other children. He likes going to school. He likes having friends, Finally, we had our second eval. And what we learned at the second eval is that he has ADHD. Now, the jury is still out on whether or not it's autism plus ADHD. The neurologist that we see now is saying, let's continue to observe. But definitely we have ADHD. Getting that answer has alleviated a lot of the pressure, a lot of the what is going on. It has made it so that we're actually able to hone in on, okay, so this is what's happening. This is the supports that we need. These are the things that we need. We're able to modify our home, modify his classroom, modify the way that we handle him and parent him. So we go see a neurologist now, and we are currently in the process of figuring out medication. I know that is very controversial, but I used to be very like, I'm not sure if I want to do that. And what I learned from last year is that I want him to have the best chance next year in kindergarten. And I feel like now that I have, I'm doing my research, I'm reading, I'm, talking to the right people, and I'm starting to understand him better. And a lot of like the negative behaviors that we're seeing are becoming, it's because his brain is moving too quickly. And I really do think that he would benefit from medication. So we are in the midst of figuring that out. He's not on anything yet, but the plan is to do that. I'm kind of just gearing myself up for kindergarten in the fall and the battle that that's going to be. But, I am fully equipping myself to be his advocate, and to do what needs to be done. Where we are right now is we manage day to day. My son is a great kid, but he does need certain supports. There's certain things, that we utilize, certain tools, certain techniques that we utilize that work really well with him. His current preschool is actually very good with neurodivergent kids. They have done a really great job with him just in the few months that he's been with them. He's been with them since about mid-September. Things are a lot better now. And not to say that we don't have our moments, or he's very sensitive to things, very overwhelmed sometimes. And we have moments, the meltdowns happen every so often, but it is so much better than where we were like a year ago, for sure. And I know that we are just at the beginning of this process. We are just, the fight has just begun, as far as making sure that he gets what he needs and he gets the supports that he needs and the education that he deserves in the life that he deserves. But I think that we've definitely made really good steps. I want to say to like people that are in it, like especially if you are pre-diagnosis and you're still in that place where you're waiting, or you're still fighting, you're still doing your research, you're in the beginning of it, do your research, find your group, find your people, whether that's an online group of people or that's an in-person group, find your spaces, find play places that he can go, and that they can go and find children that are like them, places that accept them. We have a local play place that is literally around the corner from our house, that is for neurodivergent children, and it is a place they their motto is a place where you don't have to say sorry, where we understand the behaviors and the things and the mannerisms and stuff. And sometimes we just go there and he meets other kids that are like him and he has a great time. And I meet other parents that are dealing with similar situations. I create my network of people that understand, this lifestyle. We have kindergarten in just a few months. He'll be in kindergarten in the fall. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really scared about it. We had such a terrible time before, and now we're entering school where it like counts. He can't be getting kicked out of school or missing. It's kindergarten, but it's the foundation. An interesting thing that I've gotten out of this process, all of this research and this learning that I've done, it's made me kind of think more about myself. I suspect that I have ADHD. There's a lot of things that I have learned and see in my son that I find reflected in myself. And a lot of things that I've read about that kind of make certain things that I've experienced make more sense. So that's one thing that I'm kind of excited to be able to pursue this year as well, is like get myself evaluated, and see if I also have ADHD or something. It was a lot to go through, but it was a lot to learn, and you kind of have to go through things to really like learn for real. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to kind of unlock more of these secrets and these mysteries and understand him better. And I know that it's not going to be easy. The world is not set up for neurodivergent people, even though I would say the majority of us are neurodivergent in some way. But it's not set up that way. There's stigma to it. There's going to be a battle. But I always say I'm built for this. We're going to be okay. If this video was at all helpful to you in any way, consider hitting that subscribe button. I talk about neurodivergent parenting on this channel all of the time. It has become one of the bases of my life. As I learn more things, I absolutely will share them with you. If you have any questions about our journey or our story, our evaluation process, or what we did to actually get our diagnosis, leave them down in the comments and I can make more videos about those topics in specific. Definitely stay tuned. I will be talking about more of the tools that I need, our time and play therapy, and the parenting techniques that I learned there, different tools that we use, things that we buy off of Amazon, all kinds of stuff, all the ins and outs of neurodivergent parenting, ADHD parenting while you have ADHD, maybe. Those are things that we'll talk about on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell so that you'll get a notification every time I upload. Welcome to the wilds, guys. It is real wild over here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Love you.